Greetings, and welcome to 2023. So I'm excited to talk about what's going on in time, what's going on in the year ahead, and especially to use this as an opportunity to talk about the actual mechanisms and structures in the solar system that I use in order to evaluate what's going on planet Earth. So there is a shift occurring right at the start of the new year, 2023. But as we know, the Julian calendar is only loosely based on real time. And real time is an astronomical phenomenon. So this is an opportunity. Why I'm excited is I get to talk about my favorite goddess here and now. And of course, you know who I mean, the moon. I base these videos off of lunar cycles for a good reason. It's actually the moon that's one of the most important celestial physical objects in terms of astrology, as we're going to talk about. It's almost as if the moon receives the sun's and the solar system's information and then broadcasts it directly and personally straight to us. And so tracking lunar cycles, and we know there to be roughly 12 lunar cycles a year. So if we take every annual year, divide it by solstices and equinoxes, we have our 4 cardinal directions. And if we divide those 4 cardinal directions 3 times, we have our 12 lunar cycles. So the zodiac in its 12 zodiac signs and the moon roughly having 12 new or full moons, and yes, there can be 13 a year, is a really amazing phenomenon. Now, the points where the moon passes the ecliptic is known as the moon's nodes. When we have a new or full moon aligned with the ecliptic, we experience the phenomenon known as eclipses. Eclipses, the moon, and how that is interconnecting all of the different information of the astrology. That's how I actually create these videos. It is entirely based off of the astrology. I'm not always listing all the astrology I'm using like a computer. I think that would be a waste of all of our time. But just so we're aware, the reason why this year can begin with such a significant shift is on January 1st, we saw Venus and Pluto conjoin together at the late degrees of Capricorn. Now, back at the end of September, we had our most recent total solar eclipse in Scorpio, ruled by Pluto. So fall time, Northern Hemisphere, there's a significant shift. And what we've been talking about these last few months has been in connection to that solar eclipse. This is a period of death and regeneration totally. And astrologers like to give little, mantras, one-liners for the year ahead. 2022, I called the year of death and regeneration. Well, honestly, death and regeneration's continuing through 2023. We could call 2022 through 2023 the years, plural, of death and regeneration. So here's the good news. If you've been dying in 2022, 2023 can be our regeneration. And if you haven't already experienced some death or regeneration, I just wouldn't even be too worried about it at this point. Now, the rulers of the moon's nodes, North Node, Taurus, ruled by Venus, South Node, Scorpio, ruled by Pluto, just conjoined together in a new cycle on January 1st. So we're kind of in this in-between crux. The last solar eclipse, again, end of September. The next solar eclipse is going to be in May, ruled by Venus. And that, in many respects, is a regeneration. It's the returning of life. It's the creation of a container, a temple that honors what we love and value in our hearts. Lo and behold, the start of January 2023 is like a reset button. There can be so much significant shifts occurring right now in terms of what we value in our core, how we are relating and sharing with others. And of course, this brings up all themes to do with money and exchange. Yes, have you noticed the collective theme to do with money out there in the world And coincidentally, the transiting north node of the moon is in Taurus. If there were any indication in the astrology of what to pay attention to, the north node of the moon is like the intention of our whole species evolution. So we're getting into Taurus. Taurus is money. Taurus is wealth. Taurus is things, it's objects, it's stability, it's space, it's sovereignty, it's simplicity. It's just like the cow eating grass all day long. The cow is made to eat grass. The sun shines, the grass grows. We're just doing what we do because that's what we like to do. That's what Taurus does. Taurus is not the Scorpio psychotherapist that's breaking apart, discerning every single thing, why, what's happening in the unconscious. But what we're seeing with this Venus-Pluto conjunction is a thorough examination of these exchanges of resources. Again, money, relationships, but it's bringing us straight back to our core values. And here's where we can be hitting the reset button in a significant way at the start of 2023. The question, first of all, with the transiting north node in Taurus is, what do you like? People with their natal north node in Taurus or in the second house in their birth chart are discovering their own sense of taste, oftentimes throughout life. But we have to know what we like before we can start to connect with others, before we can have any type of exchange, and certainly before there can be any such thing as support or care. And of course, we're going to talk about the full moon in her own sign of Cancer and how this month of January, this dichotomy, this collective chord is oftentimes struck. The dichotomy between our need for emotional support, family, the space and time to rest and digest, because it can be overwhelming, versus the need to get moving and to be building and to pick ourselves up by our bootstraps. And there's so much to do, such little time. This is the dichotomy of Cancer-Capricorn, where we see the sun in Capricorn, the full moon in Cancer. This is also the polarity where people get sick. It's not just the wintertime months. It's the energy dynamic of Cancer-Capricorn. Every year, we can be overwhelmed by this push and pull between inner self-care and outer demands. And we're having to, really evolve along this teeter-totter. We cannot simply carry the whole world on our shoulders as a type of burden, and neither can we push away and run away from the world either. So this is what we're looking at. This is what we're evaluating. But to come back to Venus-Pluto, this is about our core values. Are we on the same page? And I can speak personally here because this has been one of my main themes really through life, but especially these recent years, man. I can definitely personally vouch that you should not waste your time, energy, or resources on those that are not on the same page as you. And that can be a very tricky thing to evaluate because those who do not necessarily know themselves, what they like, or their core values can inform you if they're on the same page as you. So we have to actually evaluate this ourselves. What do I like? What's my taste? What's my style? Is this working for me? And what that establishes as a container in a meeting place for those of a similar wavelength to meet us where we are. There's no more bending ourselves out of shape to meet other people where they're at. There's no more getting wrapped up in other people's dramas, other people's interferences, other people's constant bullshit, not having their shit together. That's going to be the push-pull of the moon's nodes in Taurus, Scorpio, because my guess is we've experienced some interferences now in recent days and in recent weeks. And it can get quite complex. It can get quite emotionally muddy when we start to merge and when we're dependent on the people that are around us. Guess what? Taurus is not about depending on others. Taurus is about closing our inner circle of wholeness. Taurus is about being complete in and of ourselves. Taurus is the hermit that is complete in their hermitage. They hear the sounds of the birds, they have the fresh water, they grow their garden. They don't need, desire, want anything outside of what they already have, which is a total fulfillment So we can be going through some shifts. Start of 2023. Are we actually on the same page? Is this who we actually are? Is this what we really want? And what is our particular taste and style? What feels really good? Taurus is like an excellent piece of clothing that just fits your hand like a glove. There's no having to force. There's no need for expectations. There's no fighting to be understood. This is really important stuff for us. Now, the communication part can be up for us in the first 2 weeks of January 2023. The full moon does conjoin asteroid Palisthena, goddess of wisdom in Cancer. This can really illuminate our own inner emotional needs, as well as this very gifted maternal quality to take care of our own inner child, as well as to recognize what may be the missing needs in others and offer emotional care, warmth, and nurturance into others. It's like knowing that child's crying because that child didn't get a nap. That child's crying because that child needs to get fed lunch. So this Palisthena in Cancer, joined with the full moon, is very empathic, is emotionally intelligent, can feel into the worlds of others. Now that Palisthena full moon is opposite to Mercury retrograde in Capricorn. This is where there's the potential for some wires getting crossed. And the real key, first 2 weeks of January especially, at all times, right? But especially now. So we have to be very, very careful to listen. Listen. What am I saying? Where am I coming from? What are they saying? Where are they coming from? It may be a very different circumstance. There may be several layers of unpacking to even start to get to the root of wherever there are wires crossed, etc. And if you could put some prayers in for me, I'm supposed to be signing a new lease with my landlord on this full moon, which is the same degree as my Chiron. And for those with Chiron in Cancer, you're familiar with the experience of those closest to you not providing nurturance or support, not quite feeling safe or at home. So this full moon in Cancer is actually really important. It's one of the most important full moons of the year because it's the opportunity for us to tune into our own emotional needs and how to create a container of safety for ourselves. That's going to be a bottom line for each and every one of us in January 2023. Mercury retrograde squares Chiron the 11th, the same day that Venus squares the moon's nodes. So especially around this time, we have to be very careful with our communication. Really listen. Because, say we have the Taurus half down. I know what I like because I like it. This is just what I like. Well, if we want to connect and share with other people, we have to find that mutual meeting ground. And that might take some work. It may take some effort because chances are another person's not identical as yourself and doesn't have the exact type of taste. So this is an exploration of taste. This is exploration of magnets, attraction, and repulsion. Through the mirror of the other, we can be discovering more of what we actually value. And honing in on what we value, we can be connecting with the right people. And it's generally not a super sociable time. Venus did just go into Aquarius. As January unfolds, there's going to be an increasing networking, especially post new moon in Aquarius. That'll be the following video. But we've got Mars stationing on the 12th. Mercury stations a week later. And there is this drive to get forward. Like the train's attempting to leave the station, the wheels are spinning, but it's just barely starting to move forward. I mean, this can really be part of the frustration coming into this year. It's like the pieces want to be together, the energy is there, and then there can just be shooting and the arrow misses the target, or again, these interferences, or like another layer of, 3D challenges, technology issues, things not quite fitting together the right way, so we've got to go back to the store and get a different version of the same thing, etc. This is going to catalyze an increasing restlessness through this month to really get out there, to really make things happen. But we have to be very gentle and forgiving with ourselves. I don't know about y'all, but even my December was just like, let's get going, as thing after thing after thing fell apart. And I know about the stigmas and stereotypes out there. Everyone fears Mercury retrograde, for example. Having studied the astrology for the last 10 years, Mars retrogrades, these can be physically challenging times. Have you noticed, for example, like the amount of car breakdowns? I've been talking to the car people because I've had 2 major car breakdowns in the last month. It wasn't just the accident. On the solstice, hours after the solstice, my car broke down in the middle of nowhere, in the dark, with no cell service. So if those remember my last video when I talked about the challenging old gods in the mountain in Capricorn, well, I was laughing at myself as I walked through the dark at night with no cell service in a broken down car. Anyways, the car people have let me know there's an unusual amount of breakdowns right now. And this is, we could point the finger, the culprit, Mars and Mercury retrograde. So these planets are going to station direct mid-month. Now Mars stations direct 8 degrees Gemini, quincunx the south node of the moon in Scorpio. So again, there's like a direction. We know what we want. We can get there. The energy of the direction's there, but there could still be a little bit of complexity. Again, these interferences, they are frustrating, but they're forcing us to move through all the layers of bullshit and to eliminate bullshit. That's what we do, right? That's why we position ourselves above the toilet. We get rid of that shit. So it's a little bit like we would love to maybe fire one arrow and hit the bullseye, but there may even be more than one target. So we need to be considerate of that fact. Coming back to the full moon also squares Chiron. Okay, so this can actually create an experience of it's not totally safe, don't totally feel at home, don't totally feel invited, not really my family, you know? And there can be a healing of all the above as well. These things do exist out there. The gems, the treasures, the truly caring, compassionate, considerate souls, they are out there. They may be a little bit more few and far between, especially in a collective time of unrest, you see, because everybody's having their bank accounts overdrawn. You know, it's a scramble. So we see humanity at its worst right now, right? We can see who has their shit together and is therefore capable of offering any help versus the people that we can't even evaluate. We don't want to project any moralistic, they're a good or a bad person, when anyone who's in a bear trap isn't going to appear perfectly kind. So let's always bear that in mind. Because I don't know, I've got that kind of face. I look like I'm in a bear trap sometimes and people really give me shit for it. And it's not helpful. Believe it or not, people don't need to know you did something and that's why everything is the way that it is. Just get to a really quick, simple fix to actually ignore someone's real life complexity. We don't need any of that. The New Age spiritual movement is really ridiculously charged with these unrealistic beliefs, avoidance tactics. Just like, yeah, you know, you prayed to the wrong God. You lost your house. Yeah, you know, you're a mean person, so you lost all your friends. It's like, I think that life's more complex than this. When people are in a really desperate place, the way we are seeing by and large right now, we get the full spectrum of human behavior and reactions. So let's do what this full moon conjoined Palisthena can bring to really embody the goddess, the divine mother, who sees every single living being as her own child and is not evaluating whether this child should go to heaven or hell. Yeah, that's a little bit more Yahweh's work, we could say. Now, the full moon square to Chiron, there's a healing of gender. That can be a part of this full moon. We're talking about the cardinal signs, Moon, Saturn, Venus, Mars, having so much to do with gender. Chiron just stationed in Aries. There is an overall theme of healing masculinity. That is true within men and women. Masculinity, I gotta say, isn't looking too hot these days. There are certainly rotten apples that spoil the entire thing. But I gotta say, masculinity, male gender, it's a bit of a tough time right now. Yeah. Personally, I see man more in the form of Pan or the devil, and oftentimes may be considered guilty until innocent. Women are healing the masculinity in themselves by returning to sovereignty. This traditionally was the more male-gendered role in the past. Men were traditionally more sovereign, women having more access to the emotional realms and more intimate, generally. But as there's a core healing of masculinity, it's actually a collective journey towards sovereignty, with Chiron in Aries, the moon's north node in Taurus. So there's going to be, for all of us, so much to unpack here. I mean, I would love to go on a rant, but I don't even think it's necessary. It's just understanding the complexity of where we are in time and the complexity of healing, honestly, generation after generation of gender wounding. Traditional dynamics between narcissism and codependency. And now we're looking at, how do we heal masculinity within women? Women, do you want to be a man or have a man? Men are looking at the same things in themselves. And of course, we've got the whole plethora of gender revolution covering every single possibility and every in-between, as there should be. Good. This could be a time where we shift. What was tasty before, maybe not so tasty now. I know that my own taste shift over time. While I'm mentioning Cancer-Capricorn polarity, I recently did a video with Dustin Cormier, and I'm going to put a link in the video description. You can also go to my YouTube channel. And what we're talking about is the nodes of Pluto in the Cancer-Capricorn polarity. And this is some of the most important, useful astrological information that there is. And I'm really excited to be working with Dustin. He's a Vedic astrologer. I'm an EA guy, and we're getting excited about bridging these worlds together because they actually already are. And one of the most annoying things I hear about as a professional astrologer is all the disagreement between different branches of astrology. As far as I understand, the real deal astrologers are all in agreement. There's no discrepancy. So anyways, if you want to learn about Pluto's nodes, what you're going to actually tune into is the collective evolution of the species as it's occurring over many thousands of years of time. Really, really fascinating information. I also forgot to mention that I am selling an astrology calendar this year featuring Emily Kell. So if you want a hanging wall calendar that has all of the astrological transits, moon signs, eclipses, new full moons, etc., check out wall calendar for sale from my store, also in the video description below. Now, I think I'm going to pause it for here. There's a lot of excitement ahead, but there's a lot to sort through for right now, okay? So I hope that you are hitting the reset button in some major way coming into this new year. There's a bit of a cleaning out. It takes time. We would love to skip and jump into the future, especially being conditioned by this American dream world. You know, we should have our shit all together, the family, the dog, the white picket fence by our mid-30s, etc. But we're humans, and we're living in actual experience of time, and more like a snakeskin, there's a significant layer that's going to be falling off right now. That may even be driven by crises. That may even be driven by trauma. My heart goes out to each and every one of us. This is not a necessarily funny, light period to be alive. And no, it's not because you prayed to the wrong God or you clicked your heels together the wrong way that these true crises and traumas may be driving our evolution forward. Regardless, we're having to make some significant shifts. This is about protection. I'm going to be offering, I'm going to be opening the doorway to more teachers and healers, hopefully going into 2023. And this is going to be something that I would really like to see brought out into the world is real protection, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, without getting lost in the superstitions and suddenly we're afraid of, the shadows underneath our bed, something like that. No, but there are very real tools. And this is a very real time to be orienting back to ourselves, to be returning to baseline. It may take some time. I wanted to do a lot more before the start of this year, but first was the car accident, then my car was in the shop, then my pipes froze, then I went a week without drinking water or hot water. So, we have to do what we need to get the kinks worked out to even return to baseline. We move all the furniture out of the room, then we sweep the floor, then we mop the floor. Then we can start bringing in maybe some of these elements of protection, sage, Palo Santo. I'm a big fan of camphor. Clear the space out. I also now have mirrors outside facing all my windows, keeping everything away. Temple space on the inside. Me, myself, and me. Calm, content, water, snacks, naps, maybe even a good masturbation session, a good orgasm every now and then, a pleasant walk through the garden, getting my feet on the earth. That's the Taurus medicine. That's the protection that we need to return to center, to return to ourselves. Once we know what we like, our sense of taste, then we can start bringing in the people. Then we can start bringing in the new furniture. And before long, we can create a new temple. We can create a whole new world. This is a significant shift. This can really bring us back to what really matters. What really matters to us does not have to be the same as what matters to everyone else. We have different value systems here on planet Earth. We have a whole diversity of expression. It is not meant to be any other way. So don't break your back trying to get people on your own team. Make sure that we're all on the same page. Make sure that we're sharing our heart space. And I think that we can actually maybe even feel safer, more held and supported than we ever knew was possible. And speaking for myself personally, I keep that inner flame of hope well lit, because I can't think of anything that would be more valuable, not only in my life, but I'm guessing in many of your own and on the planet at this time. This is the foundation of the Rasa Leela community. It is more than simply astrology. It is to create a container for us to support one another. This intention is aligning with the planetary north nodes of Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto in the zodiac sign of Cancer, where we see our full moon the first week of 2023. Cancer is the most missing and needed medicine on the planet. Emotional intelligence, familial support, recognizing that we are all brothers and sisters to one another, regardless of culture, society, nationality, nuclear family. Is nuclear family creating more emotional support, or have we isolated ourselves from getting it? Those are some of the themes we may look at with this full moon. And again, for those who are interested in this bottom line, every single time this Cancer-Capricorn polarity comes up, a collective chord is struck. That is because we see the planetary nodes of Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto in that polarity. And if you're interested in knowing more about that, again, I recommend you check out me and Dustin's recent presentation on the planetary nodes of Pluto. I look forward to speaking to you around the time of the new moon in Aquarius. And I'm so excited to be coming back to life myself, here, now, and through the year to come. Wishing you the very best.